What if I told you there's a film so shocking, so disturbing, that it single-handedly ended the career of a world-renowned director? A movie that critics in 1960 called evil, vile, and worthless. Yet today, it's hailed as one of the greatest psychological thrillers of all time. This isn't just any horror story. It's a chilling reflection on obsession, voyeurism, and the darkness of cinema itself. The film is Peeping Tom, 1960, and when it first hit theaters, it was considered so dangerous that the British press tore it to pieces and audiences walked out in disgust. But decades later, people realized it had changed the very DNA of horror forever. The film stars Karl-Heinz Bohm as Mark Lewis, a seemingly quiet and polite young cameraman who hides a terrifying obsession behind his lens. Opposite him is Anna Massey, playing Helen, a kind and curious neighbor who slowly begins to uncover Mark's disturbing secrets. Supporting roles include Moira Shearer, the ballerina-turned-actress who plays one of Mark's tragic victims, and Maxine Audley as Helen's blind mother, whose intuition lets her sense the evil in Mark when others cannot. Behind the camera, the film was directed by the legendary Michael Powell, a man celebrated for classics like The Red Shoes and Black Narcissus, but this one movie would nearly erase his entire career. In London, Mark Lewis picks up Dora, a prostitute, covertly filming her with a camera hidden under his coat. Shown from the point of view of the camera viewfinder, he follows her into her flat, murders her with a blade concealed in one leg of his tripod, and later watches the film in his darkroom. The following morning, posing as a reporter, he films the police removing Dora's corpse from her home. Lewis is a member of a film crew, a focus puller, who aspires to become a filmmaker himself. He also works part-time photographing soft porn pin-up pictures of women, sold under the counter. He is a shy, reclusive young man who hardly socializes outside of his workplace. He lives in the house of his late father, renting most of it via an agent while posing as a tenant himself. Helen Stevens, a sweet-natured young woman who lives with her blind mother in the flat below his, befriends him out of curiosity after he is discovered spying on her 21st birthday party. Mark reveals to Helen through home films taken by his father that, as a child, he was used as a guinea pig for his father's studies on fear in children. Mark's father would study his son's reaction to various stimuli, such as large lizards he put on his bed, and would film the boy in all sorts of situations, even recording Mark's reactions at his mother's deathbed. He married another woman suspiciously soon afterwards. His studies enhanced his reputation as a renowned psychologist. Mark arranges with Vivian, a stand-in at the studio, to make a film after the set is closed. He then kills her and stuffs her into a prop trunk. The body is discovered later during shooting by Pauline, a cast member who has already antagonized the fussy director by acting a faint badly and then actually fainting from exhaustion at the many retakes. The police link the two murders and notice that each victim died with a look of utter terror on her face. They interview everyone on the set, including Mark, who always keeps his camera running, claiming that he is making a documentary. Helen goes out to dinner with Mark, persuading him to leave his camera behind for once, and briefly kisses him once they return. Her mother finds his behavior peculiar, being aware, despite her blindness, that Mark often looks through Helen's window. She is waiting inside Mark's flat after his evening out with her daughter. Unable to wait until she leaves due to his compulsion, he begins screening his latest snuff film with her still in the room. She senses how emotionally disturbed he is and threatens to move, but Mark reassures her that he will never photograph or film Helen. A psychiatrist is called to the set to counsel Pauline. He chats with Mark and is familiar with his father's work. The psychiatrist relates the details of the conversation to the police, noting that Mark has his father's eyes. Mark is tailed by the police to the newsagents, where he takes photographs of pin-up model Millie. Shortly afterwards, it emerges that Mark has killed Millie. Helen, who is curious about Mark's films, finally runs one of them. She becomes upset and then frightened when he catches her. Mark reveals that his father not only filmed his experiments on him, but recorded them and has wired the house, and he plays a recording of her with her boyfriend. Mark makes his film so that he can capture the fear of his victims. He has mounted a mirror on his camera so that he can film his victims' reactions as they see their own impending deaths. He points the tripod's blade towards Helen's throat, and we see her reaction distorted in the mirror, but he cannot kill her. The police approach, and Mark hears their sirens. As he planned from the very beginning, he impales himself on the knife with the camera running, providing the finale for his documentary. Helen cries over Mark's dead body as the police enter the room. As the scene fades, we hear a recording of his father calling him a good boy. When Peeping Tom was released in 1960, Britain was not ready for what it delivered. The story follows Mark Lewis, a cameraman who films women while murdering them, capturing their final moments of terror on tape. To audiences in the early 1960s, this was more than just offensive. It was seen as morally corrupt. The idea of linking cinema, cameras, and murder was too much for critics, who felt the film was accusing the audience of sharing Mark's voyeurism. Newspapers called it a calculated insult to human decency. Reviewers destroyed it in print, calling it beastly and repellent. In fact, the backlash was so extreme that Michael Powell was blacklisted in the British film industry. Cinemas refused to show it, and the movie was effectively buried for years. Unlike Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, which came out the very same year and was praised as a masterpiece, Peeping Tom was treated like a crime against art. But history has a strange way of rewriting itself. In the 1970s, film scholars and directors began to re-examine Peeping Tom. They realized that Powell had created something ahead of its time, a dark, psychological exploration of voyeurism and obsession, themes that would later dominate horror cinema. Directors like Martin Scorsese and Francis Ford Coppola praised the film, calling it one of the most important works in cinema history. Scorsese even helped finance a full restoration in the late 1970s, ensuring that the film would finally receive the recognition it deserved. Today, Peeping Tom is no longer banned. Instead, it's celebrated as a precursor to slasher films, a movie that influenced everything from Halloween to Silence of the Lambs. What once was considered vile is now taught in film schools as an example of daring, innovative cinema. Peeping Tom didn't just shock audiences, it forced cinema to confront its own morality. It asked difficult questions. Why do we watch violence on screen? Are audiences complicit in the voyeurism of horror films? Decades later, these questions remain just as relevant, especially in the age of streaming, reality TV, and endless true crime documentaries. Powell's vision, once hated, is now seen as prophetic. So what started as one of the most despised films in history is now a legend of cinema. Peeping Tom destroyed Michael Powell's career but gave birth to an entirely new way of looking at horror. It was banned, censored, and ridiculed. But today it stands as a masterpiece. Sometimes the films we fear the most are the ones that end up shaping the future of art.